Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and we had an amazing 2017 here at the channel. I want to thank everybody right off the bat for your subscribing to the channel, for watching our videos, the thumbs ups that we get, all the comments. Really appreciate it. The channel has grown wildly this year, and I'm really looking forward to 2018. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my plans for the coming year in this video. And basically, this is kind of a channel update video, but I'm doing it in the form of frequently asked questions. Going to go over a number of questions that I get a lot in the comment section and have gotten a lot over the years. So I figured let's just answer them and put the answer out there, because I'm sure if someone asks, there's a lot of other people wondering the same thing. And in the course of those questions, we're going to talk a little bit about the channel, some of the obstacles I faced, some of my goals going forward, that type of thing. And there will be Magic content here too, because a lot of the questions that get asked, of course, are Magic related, or a lot of times MTG Finance related. So we'll talk about those. So without any further ado, let's get into it with our first question. Now, this first series of questions are going to be Market Watch related, but the first one, and maybe one of the bigger questions I get, like just when it comes to frequency, where do you get your prices for the Market Watch? All right, so this is actually a pretty complex answer, and I don't just go to one site and just look at those prices and call it a day, because you're not going to find the accuracy you need if you do that. So what I end up doing is I look at some of the major sites that kind of are based off the Crystal Commerce system. So I'll look at MTG Goldfish, I'll look at MTG Stocks, and MTG Price. So that's kind of where I start. That's my starting point. I'll look and make sure that everything is kind of in sync between those three. For the most part, it typically is. I mean, there's little variances here and there, but I try to find the averages based off that. Then my next step is I actually look at the real world. I want to see what's going on in true marketplaces. So I look at the big marketplaces, TCG Player, I'll look at Amazon, I'll look at eBay. And I'll even glance over at Star City Games, Channel Fireball. Some of those big stores, though, can be a tad overpriced sometimes, so I do take that into account. Now, once I go into eBay specifically, it's really important that I look at sold listings and not actual, like, what people are asking. Because people can ask for anything. You could put any card up there, buy it now for $400 or $500. Doesn't mean someone's going to buy it, right? So I'm going to look at the sold listings on eBay and see what is actually happening when it comes to sales. That's a huge, huge way to kind of get past all of the smoke and mirrors sometimes of the Crystal Commerce system and other weird things are going on out there. And I'd recommend doing that if you're in the market of picking up any cards. The only thing you can't see there is if somebody takes a best offer, which is pretty frequent. A lot of buy it nows don't get what they asked for originally. They take a best offer. I can't really see what that is. I only know it's probably lower than whatever they were asking, right? So you got to take that into account. But for the most part, you can get good information that way. And then I kind of put all of this together and just squish it together and make the Market Watch every week. So it takes a little time. I mean, it takes a few hours of research every week to do those videos, but I do think they help a lot. And I'm proud of those videos because I do think, and I do hear comments that they've really helped people like maybe sell cards at the right time or buy cards at the right time and save themselves money. And I think that's critically important to keep people into the game and interested in Magic. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Why do you rank cards based on monetary gains and losses instead of percentage changes in the Market Watch? I get this one every once in a while, and I've actually looked at the data both ways, especially early on when I was starting the Market Watch. I thought I would go with percentages initially, and I found out that the data, when you look at percentages, can be really weird and doesn't really tell a good story. So if you watch my Market Watch videos, you know I try to tell the story of why the card's going up and going down. And there are times when you don't really have a good story. Every once in a while you see a card and you're like, I don't know why this did that, right? Probably somebody just listed a bunch of them really high priced or something. I don't know. So like every once in a while there's a mystery. But what I found is when you look at percentages, you're not really seeing the full picture a lot of the time. Sometimes you are, and it's fine. But what happens is, for example, let's say there's a really cheap card out there. It's like a 2-cent common. And somebody gets a whole bunch of bulk and they list them for 10 cents. It looks like the card went up tremendously percentage-wise this week, but the card didn't really do anything. It was just simply the seller got a whole bunch of them in stock and for whatever reason just listed them at 10 cents instead of 2 cents this week, right? And you get a really skewed perception of what's going on. And I don't want something like that taking up a spot on the top 5 or top 10 because it takes away the spotlight from a card that actually matters. On the flip side of the coin, same thing can happen with expensive cards. Take a card maybe from Arabian Nights, like something like a Drop of Honey, which is a $350, $400 card. Let's say one particular week it sees a little more play in a very important like legacy deck. Well, if that's the case, value could go up, but maybe the value only goes up $25 to $50. Percentage-wise, that's not a whole lot compared to maybe some other cards we would see move. But if I didn't report on that, I'd be missing that story that, hey, you know what, this card's hot right now because of this deck. X, Y, or Z happened, thus this went up in value. So what I found was the actual financial monetary gains and losses was more telling and a little more in sync with what was actually happening than the percentage most of the time. But the percentage did tell some stories every once in a while. And that's why I added the notable cards at the end of the video recently. That allows me to do a couple of things. One, talk about some unusual things like maybe some important commander cards or perhaps some important foils. I'll talk more about those in a second though. Or what I find myself doing quite a bit is actually percentage move cards. So that's why you'll see me sometimes say, okay, this card went up actually quite a bit percentage wise, but it wasn't enough to really break the top 5. But I'll still point out on the notable cards because it's still important and it tells an important enough story. It just lets me kind of pick and choose that way. So that's my thought on that. I still kind of do it, but I don't really base the top 5 lists off of it because of just the data I've found over the years. Why don't you talk more about foils, promos, or vintage cards on the Market Watch? So I started to talk about this a little bit, and I did address this on a recent episode of the Market Watch, but I want to make sure this information gets out there because I think it's really important. Cards that don't have a lot of quantity in the marketplace, especially the online marketplace, that can include foils that are hard to find, maybe rare mythic foils, for example, promos, promo foils, or some of the big vintage cards like Power 9 or something like that. There's not a lot of transactions online. You have more people listing them at ridiculous prices than you have people actually buying them at those ridiculous prices. So what you see when you go to like your MTG Goldfish or your MTG stocks, a lot of times is very, very misleading. So I want to be really careful when I report on stuff like that because I don't want to give anyone the wrong information, the wrong idea. So the reason for this is if there's not a lot of cards in the marketplace, let's say, for example, we'll talk about Black Lotus. So beta Black Lotuses, there's probably not a whole lot of those being sold any given week. So when one does get listed for any amount of value, it is going to impact the cards because there's not enough other data points to offset whatever this one seller does. The seller could put it up there for $100,000. It's going to skew the price of the card, maybe not all the way up to $100,000, maybe pretty close because there's no data marks to kind of bring it back or to average it out. That's why they can be really crazy when you're looking at hard to find promos, hard to find foils, hard to find vintage cards. So you can get a really skewed picture if you're not careful. Again, this is when you look at eBay and sold listings, if you can find them, because sometimes you won't be able to find any recent ones, unfortunately, for some of these cards. But if you can, that's going to give you a much better picture than if you look at, say, a Crystal Commerce type system. So with that being said, I think that I will report on them when I can do it, but I'll probably always give you a long disclaimer, like be really, really careful. And I'll only report on it if it's something that feels maybe really drastic or has a true story behind it, right? Like, for example, a certain foil is maybe like really popular right now in Commander, and that's why it's moving. So things of that nature. But yeah, I will talk about them, but I'm just going to be really careful. It's not going to be all the time. Why do you have to mention things like Patreon, Amazon links, or Flipside Gaming links in your videos? Well, you know, there's a lot of people that I think understand why I have to do it. There's a lot of people that just don't like commercials and just don't want to be bothered by it, and I totally get that. So why do I have to do it? Well, first off, I'll tell you a little bit about my situation when it comes to making videos, and then I'll talk about some of the issues I've had recently with YouTube, and I think maybe that will start to form the large picture for you. Basically, for me, this is not my full-time job. I mean, for some people it is, and that's great. I'd love for it to be, but it's not. I'm a writer. I write a lot of business and travel tourism articles, travel business articles, that type of stuff. I actually have written some Magic articles in the past, but it's been a while. Typically, I write on things that have nothing to do with Magic at all. And that's my main job. Now, the thing is, when you write articles like that for different, whether it's websites, magazines, whatever, to get published, if you look around, and over the years I've developed a lot of contacts, so I can pick up a lot of articles if I choose to in any given week or any given month. So if I choose to do that and make pretty solid money doing that, that means less time to make videos and to work on the channel and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to strike the balance. Now, financially, the more I can make from the channel, the less I have to pick up the articles just to survive and, you know, pay the bills, right? So if I can do that, that means maybe 1 or 2 less articles that week, and maybe that means 1 or 2 more videos that week. It also depends on what's going on, of course, in the world of Magic. I'll try harder to report on things as there's a lot of news coming out, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I have a decision to make. Do I make another video, or do I take on another article or 2, right? So, and that's tough because, you know, you have to support yourself, and time is a commodity that you just don't have endless of. Now, YouTube has ad revenue. Problem is, and I'm sure you've heard about the YouTube adpocalypse and all that stuff, and I'll talk about a little bit how that's impacted me. It's been rough, especially recently, because what's happened is I had some issues with it a few months back. I think it really started around last spring or summer. I don't remember now, but I did mention it a couple times on the channel that I started having some issues with it. But the issues really ramped up this fall because what I'm considered to be maybe more of a family-friendly channel, they started looking at family-friendly channels a lot harder because of some issues with quote-unquote family-friendly channels not being so family-friendly. And because of that, YouTube all of a sudden took a really hard line on anything that was kind of maybe getting a little bit of a pass before. So I went from getting maybe a slight pass where I was getting a video demonetized maybe once every few days to basically now every single one of my videos gets demonetized. And I have to appeal to get it remonetized. And during that time period, which could last anywhere between 12 to 36 hours probably on average, it seems, I don't get paid for the videos during that time. And that is backbreaking, basically. Just to give you an idea, I have a screenshot here. I'll show it to you. This is kind of what I see behind the scenes. And I took this one in November when I was communicating with the support team at YouTube, who unfortunately were not able to help me at all, and has, in fact, cut off communication with me because I guess they felt like they didn't have any answers for me. So they, at this given time, and I chose this screenshot because this was a time period I was making a lot of videos because previews were going on for Unstable. So you can see here over the course of, even on the 17th, I actually made 3 videos that day. So I had 1 on the 16th, 3 on the 17th, 1 on the 18th. 4 out of 5 of those videos got demonetized, as you can see here. So at the time I took the screenshot, these videos were still pretty young. Views were not as high as they eventually got. But yeah, they, unfortunately, during that time period until they got this resolved, which was many, many hours later, I wasn't getting anything for the videos other than the one. So kind of funny, the Vault of Ketelicon was fine, apparently, but the market watches, the Unstable previews were not. So they reviewed them, and yes, they did overturn it and fix them all, but I lost all the ad revenue during that time, which is crippling. I mean, honestly, it's backbreaking. So that's another reason where I'm in the situation where I have a couple options. It's either just not make videos or many videos and just write articles so that I can survive, or fortunately, I do have some folks that support me through Patreon and through the Amazon links and the Flipside Gaming links and such. And the Flipside Gaming link I think is pretty sweet because it actually saves the consumer money too. And it's actually a local game store. And maybe it's not your local game store, but at least it is a big game store in that area. So I think that's actually pretty sweet too. I like the fact that that kind of helps them out. I actually have friends that play there. I don't live near there, but I have friends that play there. So that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, you know, I rather not like have to do the spiel all the time. And I don't do it in like short videos. I don't want my plugs to be longer than the actual content. But longer videos, like your Market Watch or something, I mean, if I don't talk about Patreon, if I don't talk about the links and the options for supporting the channel, it just doesn't happen. People don't know about it. And I wouldn't be able to afford to do videos at all, honestly, if they weren't there, if that support wasn't there. Now, not everyone can support me in that way, and that's totally fine, because there's other ways to support the channel, like just watching the video, giving a thumbs up, leaving a comment, sharing, talking about the channel. Like, all of that helps. in more than I can even begin to tell you. So I appreciate all that, and I hope no one ever thinks that I don't appreciate that, and that the only thing I appreciate is Patreon. But I do have to talk about that stuff, because if not, unfortunately, there is no Heroes and Legends at this point. Now, if YouTube gets their act together, I mean, ad revenue is not like a ton of money, but if they got their act together, I probably wouldn't feel as pressured to bring up Patreon all the time or what have you. But that's not the case right now, and I don't know when or if that's ever going to be the case again. So I guess we'll find out. But thank you to the patrons, but also thank you to everyone who supports the channel in every way. I hope this explanation, I know it's going a little long, so I want to move on. It just gives you an idea why I have to do it. That's all. Like, that's all it is. And I wish I didn't have to do it as much, honestly, but it's kind of become critical in this environment. Where did my comment go? In the comment section. Okay, this kind of ties in with the last one. So obviously, recently with all the changes and the focus on the ad revenue piece of YouTube, YouTube made a change where they now have the default when you upload a video to have your comment section automatically filtered for anything that would be like an obscenity or anything violent or anything like that. It's an algorithm. It's not perfect. So it does catch things that aren't always bad things. And I do have the ability to go in and review those things and then approve them and let them move on to the comment section. And I do that. I can't do it 24/7, obviously, but I check in as much as I can, and I'll fix that when it happens. So I'm not sure what that looks like from your end. I'm not sure if it looks like it just posted and you just don't even notice, or if something tells you it didn't post or you don't see your comment. I don't know what that looks like exactly. But I just want to put it out there just in case anyone had that question. Now, I could turn that off, but unfortunately, if I turn that off, guess what? It means my videos probably even more likely will get demonetized. And that one that didn't get demonetized probably would have been. Right? So, granted, they're pretty much all getting demonetized anyway, but anything I can do to try to prevent it to some degree, I'm going to try to do. So I have that set up. I will continue to filter. But, I mean, obscenities, if someone uses the F word or something like that, I'm not going to be able to push that through anymore. I mean, I used to be pretty lax with the comment section, but also, too, now that the channel's gotten bigger, I do have to be a little more on top of moderation, because as the channel got larger, it also has brought in maybe some not so nice elements here and there. Hasn't been bad, but what I don't want to see is people attacking other people in the comment section. I mean, debate's fine. Like, if you want to debate, I hate Magic, I love Magic, and you do it professionally, and it doesn't become personal attacks, well, that's awesome. I love that kind of debate. It's actually fun to read. I might not necessarily get involved myself, but I read all those, and sometimes I just enjoy the different points of view, and I'm totally cool with that. But if it becomes like a personal attack, or like I said, anything that could get me flagged from YouTube when it comes to monetization, so obscenities or any sort of like violent language or anything like that, unfortunately, I can't have on there. So it will probably get picked up by the filter. Even if it didn't, though, if someone's just being personally attacking someone, I would still delete that comment. Unfortunately, it's just where we are, right? So this kind of is what it is. But most things aren't an issue. Very few things come up that are an issue. So it kind of is what it is there. But yeah, so if your comment disappears and you didn't do anything like wrong, just give it a little time. Eventually I'll see it and I'll get it fixed. What is that playmat that you use for pack openings? I get this question a lot. This is maybe the second biggest question I get after how do you get your prices for the Market Watch. But the playmat I use is from GP Orlando 2014. It was October 2014. And it's super sweet looking if you've seen the videos. It basically looks like a guide map from a theme park like in the 90s. And it's all Magic themed. So you have Magic attractions, restaurants, merchandise on there with the little tabs, the numbers explaining each one. And I just thought it looked really sweet. Obviously, being in Orlando, the capital of theme parks, they did it as the theme for that particular GP. It was a Star City Games GP. Some people do ask me if I knew where they can buy one. Last I checked, they actually still had a few available on Star City Games site. I'm sure you can find them on eBay or something. I don't get a kickback or anything from Star City Games, but if you really, really want to find one, I'll try to help you out. So yeah, it's really sweet looking. Like, especially if you visited theme parks like as a kid in the 80s and 90s, like to me, that's what the map looks like, because theme park maps don't really look like that anymore. They look a little more, I don't know, modernized. But when you look at those old ones that look very cartoony, like it just looks really awesome. So I just love that playmat. A lot of people I know out there have had questions and really like it too, especially if they're theme park fans and Magic fans. So that's where it is. That's what it is. So good luck if you are looking for one. I mean, I'm sure you can find some out there. A lot of people were at that GP. It was a very big one. It was a sealed, it was a limited GP for Konzatar here, right, when it came out. Thank you for not talking about drama on your channel. You're welcome. Well, I won't get into it because I don't want to talk about drama on the channel, but a lot of people have thanked me for that. And I will just simply say this. We all have enough stress in our life. I could do drama videos and you know what? I'd get a lot more views. But I don't want to do that. That's not why I got into this business. And, you know, if I wanted to, I do this channel because it's fun for me. That wouldn't be fun for me. And like I said, this is not my career. It's not my job. So, you know what? If I'm going to lose some money by not talking about that stuff, then I'm going to lose some money by not talking about that stuff. Because I don't need the stress either. You don't need the stress. None of us need the stress. Let's just play Magic. Let's have a good time. Yeah, that's about it. All right, next question. What are your favorite formats to play? I get this one quite a bit. It's changed over the years. I used to play a lot of constructed, more competitive stuff a few years back before I had the channel. The channel's become kind of a big way of how I relate to the hobby now. But before I had the channel, I liked Standard, I liked Modern, I even played Legacy. I've sold a lot of my older cards now, though, to help support the channel. And because I don't really have a place to play Legacy anymore, there's not a lot of places. I mean, certain areas have a healthy environment. I'm not in one of those areas anymore, so, and I wasn't actually before I moved either, so I figured it's probably not happening. So I don't really get to play that anymore, other than maybe Magic Online a little bit. But what I found in recent years, I really like sealed and draft. I like limited a lot. And it's because one of my hangups when it comes to Magic, at least like constructed Magic over the years, has been the fact that I always like just think I need to build the best deck, right? Like, why would I build a deck that's any less than the best? Like, why don't I always play with the cards that have a chance of winning a tournament? And because of that, I didn't get to play with a lot of other cards. I also would tend to lean towards certain strategies, like maybe control or combo I liked a lot. But I never played aggro, like never. So now when I play sealed or drafts, I find myself having to diversify, and I'm learning a lot more about like aggro. I'm learning a lot more about mid-range. I'm learning a lot more about like different combo decks that I never would have played before, right? So like that to me is kind of fun. And when you have to choose from a very small card pool, then you end up using a lot of cards you would never have used before, right? Than if you're playing like Standard or something. So it's just a lot of fun for me. I like cubes a lot too, like Magic Online Vintage Cubes, always a lot of fun, or Legacy Cube. I have a good time with those. So yeah, I don't play a ton of Magic Online, and I'd like to play some like stream at some point, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But again, I need time to practice and not make as many misclicks before I would do that as a part of the channel's like actual entertainment, I think. But yeah, maybe I can get there at some point, but it's just kind of tough right now with actually running the channel and making videos and doing my main job too. So maybe in the future, though, I would like to do that. But yeah, it's changed for me a lot, but I like all formats. I like Commander too. When I get a chance to play it, that's actually pretty awesome too. Do you follow your own MTG Finance advice? Yes and no. I don't really have the money to buy cards as much as I would like to. Like a lot of times I'll say in a video, wow, this card looks super undervalued. You should pick up a copy. I'd love to pick up a copy, but I just don't have the money to do it. So if I could, I would. Selling, yes. When it comes to selling cards, the right time to sell, if I have those cards, then yeah, I follow my advice there. And I would follow my advice all the time if I had the money and time to do so. So I feel like most of the time, I mean, no one's perfect, right? I'm sure not everything I say comes out the way that I speculate on, but at least a lot of the time, I feel like I've built up enough knowledge from just watching the game for so long that I have a good idea of what's going to happen, at least a good percentage of the time. Will you ever go on camera? Yes, eventually. Here's the hold up with that. I need to get a good camera. I need to get like a backdrop and all that stuff. All that costs money. So the money, again, is the issue for me. But even before I get that, I have to get an upgraded PC because I actually make all my videos and stuff on a laptop. And it was like a $300 laptop that I bought years ago when I first started the channel. So the thing is fine. It's great for like what I do most of the time with like voiceovers, market watch. It's just fine. But pack openings, it starts to smoke. so like just rendering and editing like pack openings, any sort of live video is painful. So I can't imagine doing things beyond pack openings, how that would work. I also don't have like a camera with like much memory, so sometimes I have to really like make some interesting cuts to try to get everything together. So yes, I want to do that because I think that's a barrier for the channel. I think if I'm not on camera and you all don't get to know me personally and have that kind of face-to-face contact, I think there's a certain limit to how big the channel and how successful the channel can be. So I do want to get there, and I am saving the money. Patreon helps a ton. So all that money, I'm just banking it to save up for all this stuff at this point. I mean, thanks to the patrons, I've gotten a lot of stuff taken care of because I kind of had to prioritize a little bit. I mean, I could have done like the video stuff earlier, but I needed to get the audio right first. And I think the audio is a lot better. I wanted something to do the pack openings with because they're kind of a big part of the channel when new stuff comes out. Lighting for pack openings. I mean, all that stuff, even the computer I have now, like all the stuff that I got, it's kind of baby steps, but it is because of Patreon. It's because of the purchases on Amazon, the purchases through Flipside Gaming. So can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And yes, we will get there. It's going to take a little time. I'd like to get it done before the end of this coming year. It's my goal, and we'll kind of see. And hey, that's the last question. So just to sum up, yeah, 2018, I have big plans for the channel. I want everything to just become a little more professional, a little more polished, do work that's not just all voiceover type work, and, you know, just kind of make it more fun and build a community and grow the game a little more. And I do want to say, as closing, thank you to all of you. And I couldn't have done it without each and every one of you, not just the patrons, not just the people that buy stuff on the links and such, but also everybody who just watches the channel, tells people about it, thumbs ups the videos, leaves a comment. And I can't tell you how much that means. And I don't want you ever to get the idea that I only care about people that give on Patreon or anything like that. I mean, that's very important, but it's not all, because most people can't afford to do that. Totally understand that. And that's okay, because there's a lot of other ways to support what we do here. And I am very grateful for the way everybody contributes to that. So thank you all, and Happy New Year. I will be doing more videos before the new year. I have some Market Watch videos coming up over the next few days. But then, of course, on New Year's Day, guess what? We got some Rivals of Ixalan to talk about. Previews will officially begin on January 1st. They'll go through the week with the full set being revealed that Friday. So we'll do a full set review and all of that stuff that we normally do. So I'm pretty excited for it. I'm really excited to see Rivals. Maybe more excited for Dominaria, but that's another topic for another day. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.